If you're just joining us, and you've never heard of the Hollow Men of the Ozarks, you might want to grab a coffee and sit down. This is the kind of story that sticks in your craw and doesn't let go. What I'm about to tell you happened in the black spruce hollows of southwestern Missouri, and it changed my life forever. I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm asking you to listen. I'm 72 years old now, sitting on the back porch of a cabin that's seen more winters than I care to count, and I've kept this secret for 50 years. My hands shake a little when I hold this coffee mug, not from age, but from the memory of what I saw in 1974. I'm Danny Marrel. I was a kid then, 22 years old, with a rifle I didn't know how to use and a heart full of grief because my younger brother had gone missing in these woods 3 days prior. Everyone in town said JD was dead. They said he'd wandered off the trail, fallen into one of the limestone sinkholes that swallow up hikers every autumn, or that the bears had gotten him. The search parties came and went. The sheriff shook my hand and patted my shoulder and told me to wait for the recovery team. But I knew something else. I knew JD wouldn't have left the ridge without telling me. I knew the woods were calling to him, and I knew I had to go. That night, I found a creature, and that creature looked me in the eye, with a voice like grinding stones and wet leaves, and whispered the words that would haunt me until my dying breath. I think you may be cursed, boy. That mark on your neck, it calls to the deep. I'm not asking anyone to believe me. I know how this sounds. I know the way my voice cracks when I talk about things that walk on two legs but move like shadows. I know that by the time I finish this story, half of you will have clicked over to something safer, something with monsters you can explain away with genetics or mass hysteria. But the other half, the ones who felt eyes on them in the tree line, the ones who've heard a click in the dark that wasn't a bird, you'll know. Before I die, someone needs to know that the Marrels aren't just a family. We're a lineage, and the debt isn't paid yet. It was late October, 1974. The Ozarks in autumn are a beautiful place if you don't know better. The maples burn red and gold, the air smells like wood smoke and damp earth, and the silence is heavy enough to press on your eardrums. I was hiking off-trail, cutting through a drainage that wasn't marked on any map, following a scent that made my stomach turn. It wasn't the musk of a bear or the ammonia tang of a bobcat. It was something sweeter, like rotting orchids mixed with iron. I found JD's cap first. It was caught on a hawthorn bush, the brim torn, the fabric stained with something dark. I dropped to my knees, my breath hitching, and that's when I heard the sound. Click. Click hiss. Click. It came from the brush ahead, a rhythmic, guttural vocalization that didn't sound like any animal I'd ever studied. It sounded like language. I froze, my hand going to the bolt of my .22, though I knew a .22 wasn't enough for whatever was making that noise. I crept forward, pushing through a curtain of poison ivy and deadfall, and then I saw it. At first my brain stumbled trying to categorize what I was looking at. I thought it was a man in a tattered coat, crouched over something. But the proportions were wrong. The shoulders were too broad, the arms too long, hanging down past knees that bent slightly backward. The figure was roughly 7 feet tall, though it was hunched, making it look shorter. Its skin was the color of cured tobacco, wrapped tight over a frame of corded muscle. It was working on a snare, not a bear trap, but a wire loop set around the base of a cedar. And caught in the snare wasn't an animal, it was a juvenile. A smaller version of the creature, maybe 6 feet tall, whimpering softly, its ankle swollen and bleeding where the wire had bitten deep. The adult creature was using a flat stone to twist the wire, its fingers long, spindly fingers with nails like black obsidian, working with terrifying dexterity. It had a tuft of white hair running down its spine, and its face, God, its face. It had a flat nose, a brow ridge that jutted out like a shelf, and eyes that were entirely amber, no white, no pupil, just a glowing, reflective pool of intelligence. I should have run. Every instinct screamed at me to turn and sprint back to the cabin. But then the juvenile creature let out a sharp cry, and the adult's head snapped up. It locked onto me. There was no aggression in that look, no rage. It was a calculation. The creature assessed me in a heartbeat, its nostrils flaring as it sampled the air. It saw my rifle, it saw my hands, it saw the way I was looking at the wounded juvenile. Slowly, deliberately, the adult released the wire. The juvenile slumped, free. The adult stood up, unfolding to its full height, towering over me. It was almost 9 feet tall now. It took a step toward me, and the ground seemed to vibrate. I raised my rifle, my hands shaking so hard the barrel danced. "Easy," I whispered, though I didn't know what I was saying. I didn't come to hurt it. The creature tilted its head. A low rumble started in its chest, a sound I felt in my teeth. Then, it leaned down, bringing its face inches from mine. The smell hit me then, musk, pine resin, and that strange sweet decay. It reached out a hand. I flinched, expecting a strike, but it didn't strike. Its fingers, tipped with those black claws, brushed against the collar of my jacket. It pulled back the fabric of my collar, revealing the birthmark on the side of my neck. It was a dark, jagged mark, shaped like a branching root, right over my carotid artery. My mother always told me to keep my shirts tucked in. The creature's amber eyes widened, just a fraction. It made a sound, a soft trilling noise. Then it spoke. The voice was wet and clicking, forced through a throat that wasn't built for English. It sounded like stones grinding together underwater. "I think you may be cursed, boy. That mark on your neck. It calls to the deep." Then, it reached into a pouch of woven bark at its waist and pulled out an object. It held it out to me. It was a carving, made of white bone, shaped like a spiral with a single hole in the center. The creature closed my fingers over it, its grip surprisingly gentle, and then turned. It grabbed the juvenile by the arm, and together they moved into the brush. They didn't run, they flowed. One step, and they were gone, vanished into the timber as if the trees had swallowed them whole. I stood there for a long time, the bone spiral heavy in my hand, my heart hammering against my ribs. I looked down at JD's cap. I didn't find my brother that day. I didn't find him the next day, or the week after. The search was called off. They found his body a month later, washed down in a creek bed, 3 miles from where I'd found the cap. The coroner said it was a fall. But I kept the bone spiral, and every night for the next 3 days, I dreamed of amber eyes and a voice telling me that my life was no longer my own. In the months that followed, I became a ghost in my own life. I dropped out of community college. I stopped going to the VFW hall. I spent my days maintaining my grandfather's cabin, which sat on a 1/4 acre of land bordering the Mark Twain National Forest. I told my mother I was focusing on the property. I told myself I was grieving JD. But the truth was, I was waiting. The bone spiral became a talisman. I wore it on a leather cord around my neck, right over the birthmark. At first, nothing happened. Then, the small things started. I'd be walking through the woods and feel a presence, a pressure in the air, like the moment before a thunderstorm. I'd find mushrooms growing in perfect circles around the cabin. I'd wake up to find my rifle cleaned and oiled, though I'd left it dirty the night before. If this channel has helped you sleep a little better by knowing the secrets of the deep woods, consider giving us a like and subscribe. It keeps the lights on and the stories coming. Now back to the story. In the spring of 1975, I met the adult again. I was chopping wood behind the cabin when the air went still. The birds stopped singing, the wind died. I turned, axe in hand, and there he was, the same creature. He stood at the tree line, watching me. He wasn't hiding. He was waiting. I didn't raise the axe. I slowly set it down. "You," I said, my voice raspy. "You're the one." The creature stepped forward, moving with a fluid grace that made no sound. He stopped 10 feet away. He looked at the axe, then at me, then at the bone spiral hanging from my neck. He made a clicking sound, approval or acknowledgement. He reached into his pouch and pulled out a bundle of dried herbs. He tossed them at my feet. I picked them up. It was a mix of yarrow, golden seal, and something I didn't recognize, with leaves like silver feathers. I knew enough about wilderness medicine to recognize the yarrow and golden seal as potent antiseptics. "Thank you," I said. The creature rumbled in his chest. "Debt," he clicked. "Debt not paid. Blood calls, blood pays." Then he turned and left. That summer, my mother came down with a fever that wouldn't break. The doctor in town said it was pneumonia, but the antibiotics weren't working. I remembered the herbs. I prepared a tea, following the old folk remedies my grandfather had taught me, mixing the silver-leafed herb with the yarrow. I forced her to drink it. By the next morning, her fever had broken. She sat up, color returning to her face, and asked what I'd given her. I told her it was a tonic from the woods. She never got sick again. That was the beginning of the exchange. I began leaving offerings at the edge of the tree line near the cedar grove where I'd first seen them. I left cans of peaches, jars of honey, sometimes a bottle of whiskey. The whiskey was never touched. The honey and peaches were gone by morning. In return, I'd find the bone carvings, or bundles of rare medicinal plants, or sometimes just the spiral token left on a stump, signaling that the bond was active. I learned to read the signs. The clicks in the trees weren't just communication, they were warnings. A sharp, staccato click meant danger. A low, rolling rumble meant presence. A soft trill meant curiosity. By 1978, I knew I wasn't alone in the woods. I'd see the juveniles playing in the distance, mimicking the adults, their movements jerky and playful. I saw a second adult, a female, smaller than the male, with a scar running down her left flank. I saw a third, older, missing half of his left ear, who moved with a limp but carried a staff made of polished bone. They were a family, a clan, and I was part of it. I fell in love with a woman named Glenna in 1980. She was a school teacher from Springfield, visiting the area to hike the Ozark Trail. We met at a diner. She had kind eyes and a laugh that cut through the silence I'd been living in. We married in 1981. For a while, I thought I could have a normal life. I thought I could keep the hollow men hidden, keep the bond secret, and just be a husband and a cabin owner. But the woods don't let you hide things forever. Glenna noticed the changes. She noticed how I'd wake up in the middle of the night, standing by the window, listening to sounds she couldn't hear. She noticed the bone carvings I'd started leaving on the mantel, which I told her were souvenirs from a trip to a native art gallery. She noticed how I'd flinch when the wind blew from the east. "Danny," she said one evening in 1983, sitting across from me at the kitchen table. "You're not here. You're somewhere else. You talk to the trees." "I'm just tired, Glenna," I lied. "The isolation gets to me." "It's not just the isolation," she whispered, reaching across the table to take my hand. "It's like you're afraid of something. Or someone." I couldn't tell her. How do you explain to the woman you love that you have a pact with a 9-foot-tall cryptid that calls itself a hollow man? That your family has a birthmark that marks you as a keeper? That if you reveal the truth, you'll lose her, and worse, you'll endanger the creatures who have protected you? So I lied. I told her I was having nightmares about JD. I told her I was depressed. I started spending more time in the woods, claiming I was checking traps or hunting. In reality, I was maintaining the bond. I was checking the offerings. I was listening. The bond grew deeper. In 1985, the adult male appeared at the cabin door at dusk. Glenna was inside, cooking. I saw him through the window and froze. He stepped into the light, and I panicked. I grabbed a log and stood in the doorway, blocking his path. He stopped. He looked at the log, then at me. He made a low, annoyed rumble. He reached into his pouch and pulled out a bundle of dried sage and placed it on the porch step. Then he pointed at my chest, at the bone spiral. "Keeper," he clicked. "You hide, you fear, Fear breaks bond. I'm protecting my home, I said, my voice shaking. Home is safe, he rumbled. She is loud. Noise attracts hunters. Hunters bring fire. Fire burns. He was right. Glenna's life in the cabin was too loud. The radio, the phone, the visitors. It was drawing attention. I knew then that I had to make a choice. The next day, I told Glenna I was leaving. I told her I needed to go back to the military, that I'd been offered a job with a private security firm in the Panhandle. It was a lie, but it was a lie that gave me an out. She cried. She begged me to stay. I kissed her forehead and told her I'd write. I never wrote. I walked away from the marriage, and I walked away from the life I thought I wanted. I moved deeper into the woods, to a smaller cabin that I'd found years ago, accessible only by a four-wheel drive road that washed out in the spring. I became a recluse. I took a job as a freelance guide for hunters who wanted to chase deer, but I only took clients who paid cash and didn't ask questions. I used the money to buy supplies and to bribe the sheriff to stay off my property. The hollow men tolerated my return. The adult male would watch me from the ridge, his amber eyes gleaming in the twilight. We didn't speak much, but the bond held. I was the keeper. I was the bridge. The 1990s brought the crisis that tested everything. In 1992, a group of poachers moved into the area. They were using high-powered rifles and thermal scopes, hunting for anything valuable. They were killing for sport, and worse, they were setting snares that caught everything, including the juveniles. I heard the reports in town. I saw the news about the decline in the deer population. I knew what it meant. The poachers were cutting into the hollow men's territory. One night in November 1992, I was sitting on my porch, drinking coffee and watching the treeline, when I heard a scream. It wasn't human. It was the high-pitched cry of a juvenile. I grabbed my rifle and ran toward the sound, crashing through the brush. I found a young hollow man trapped in a steel jaw trap, his leg crushed, blood pooling in the snow. Standing over him was a man in camouflage, holding a rifle, laughing as he poked the creature with a stick. "Look at this freak!" the poacher shouted. "I'm gonna skin this thing and sell it to the highest bidder." I didn't think. I raised my rifle and fired. The bullet sparked off the poacher's rifle barrel, knocking it away. The poacher spun around, eyes wide with shock. "Who's there?" he yelled, fumbling for his weapon. I fired again, this time aiming for the ground near his feet. "Get out of here!" I roared, my voice cracking with a ferocity that surprised even me. "This is private land. The sheriff is on his way." The poacher hesitated, looking at the dark woods, then at me. He saw the rifle. He saw the desperation in my eyes. He cursed and turned, running back toward his truck. I dropped to my knees beside the juvenile. His leg was mangled, the bone protruding. I worked quickly, using my knife to cut the trap open, applying pressure to stop the bleeding. The creature was thrashing, hissing, his amber eyes wild with pain and rage. "Easy," I whispered, pressing my hand against his shoulder. "I'm helping. I'm the keeper." The creature froze at the word. He looked at me, his breathing ragged. He reached out and gripped my wrist, his strength immense. He pulled my hand closer to his face, sniffing the air. He saw the bone spiral. "Keeper," he clicked, his voice weak. "Mark, true." I set the leg as best I could, wrapping it with a bandage from my pack. I dragged him to the shelter of a hollow log, hiding him from view. I stayed with him through the night, applying a poultice of the silver-leafed herbs I'd learned to prepare. By morning, the swelling had gone down. The creature was sitting up, leaning against the log. He looked at his leg, then at me. He made a sound, a soft chuffing noise. He reached out and touched the bone spiral at my neck. "Debt paid," he whispered. "For now." I knew then that the poachers were a real threat. They weren't just hunting deer, they were hunting the hollow men. I had to act. Over the next year, I became a saboteur. I tracked the poachers using the signs the hollow men left for me. They'd click at me from the trees, pointing me toward the intruders. I'd follow, and I'd destroy their equipment. I'd cut their snares, I'd tip their trucks. I'd leave anonymous tips to the sheriff, leading him on wild goose chases. I lied to the authorities. I told the sheriff that the poachers were using ghost trails, that they moved too fast to catch. I told him I'd seen a bear attacking their gear. I took the blame for the missing equipment, risking my own reputation to protect the creatures. Glenna called once in 1994. Her voice was distant, filled with worry. "Danny, I heard you were in trouble. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, Glenna," I lied. "Just doing what I have to do." "You're always doing what you have to do," she said softly. "But who's doing what's right for you?" She was right, but there was no right for me. My life was the woods. My life was the bond. My life was the curse. The new millennium brought new threats, technology. In 2005, I found a trail camera set up near the cedar grove. It was hidden in the brush, pointed at a game trail. I smashed it with a rock, my heart pounding. Someone was watching. Someone was trying to document the hollow men. I tracked the owner. It was a documentary crew, a team from a network that specialized in cryptid hunting. They were based in St. Louis, and they'd been hiring trackers to find the Missouri Yeti. I couldn't let them succeed. If they found the hollow men, the world would descend on these woods. There would be scientists, tourists, hunters, and worse, governments. The bond would be broken. The creatures would be exposed, captured, or killed. I had to make a choice. I couldn't just destroy their equipment. I had to make them leave. I waited 2 weeks, watching their camp from the ridge. I learned their routine. I learned the leader's name, Dr. Danny Marrel. No relation, but the coincidence made my blood run cold. One night, I crept into their camp. I didn't go for the cameras. I went for the generator. I drained the fuel, sabotaged the lines, and dumped a bucket of mud into the intake. Then I went to the leader's tent. I stood over him as he slept. I didn't hurt him. I just whispered in his ear, using the clicking voice I'd practiced in the mirror for years. "Leave! The deep ones are angry. The deep ones will take your mind." Then I took his notes. I burned them in a fire pit, feeding the pages to the flames. I left a single bone spiral on his pillow. The next morning, the crew was packing up. Dr. Marrel was pale, shaking, his eyes wide with a fear I recognized. He told his team that the equipment had been sabotaged by locals, that the area was cursed, that he felt watched. He called off the expedition. I watched them drive away, my hands trembling. I had saved them, and I had saved the hollow men. But I knew this wouldn't be the last time. The world was getting smaller. The secrets were getting harder to keep. In 2008, I had a health scare. I'd been coughing for weeks, ignoring it until I coughed up blood. I lay in bed, feverish, thinking this was it. I thought the bond was ending. I thought I'd die alone in the dark. I woke up to the smell of herbs. I opened my eyes to see the adult male standing at the foot of my bed. He was holding a bowl of steaming liquid. He handed it to me. "Drink," he clicked. "Cure." I drank. The liquid was bitter, but it burned away the pain in my chest. I slept for 12 hours. When I woke, the cough was gone. The fever was gone. The adult male was sitting on a stump outside, watching me. I went out to him. "Why?" I asked. "Why do you help me?" He looked at me, his amber eyes reflecting the dawn. "Blood calls, blood pays. You are keeper, you are family." He reached out and placed a hand on my shoulder. His grip was firm, warm. For the first time I felt a connection that went beyond the bond. It was affection. It was respect. "We are many," he rumbled. "In the Appalachians, in the Cascades, in the Great Lakes. Keepers bind the blood. Keepers keep the peace. You are not alone, Danny Marrel." The words hit me like a physical blow. I wasn't the only one. There were others, families across the continent, carrying the same mark, keeping the same secret, protecting the same creatures. In 2015, the adult male died. I found him in the cedar grove. He was lying on his back, his eyes open, staring at the sky. His breathing was shallow, his chest rising and falling in a slow, ragged rhythm. He was old, older than I'd ever seen a hollow man. His fur was gray, his skin loose and spotted. I knelt beside him. "It's time," I whispered. He turned his head to look at me. His strength was fading, but his eyes were clear. He reached into his pouch and pulled out a final object. It was a staff, carved from white bone, topped with a spiral that matched the token I wore. He placed the staff in my hands. "Take," he clicked. "You are elder now. Teach the young. Keep the mark. Keep the peace." I gripped the staff, tears streaming down my face. "I don't know how to teach. I don't know if anyone will listen." "The blood will call," he rumbled. "The blood will find. You are not alone. There are others. In the Ozarks, in the Missouri. Find them. Bind them." He closed his eyes. His breathing stopped. The amber eyes lost their light, turning milky and dull. I sat with him for hours, watching the sun rise over the trees. Then, the clan arrived. The female, the scarred one, came first. Then the juveniles, now grown, their movements sleek and powerful. Then the third adult, the one with the missing ear. They gathered around the body, making a low, mournful sound that vibrated through the ground. It was a song of grief, a clicking, humming dirge that sounded like the wind through the pines. They invited me to the ritual. I followed them to a clearing deep in the woods, a place I'd never seen before. In the center was a circle of standing stones, covered in moss and lichen. The hollow men arranged the body of the elder in the center, covering him with branches and flowers. Then they began to dance. It wasn't a human dance. It was a series of jerky, rhythmic movements, their limbs twisting and clicking, their voices rising and falling in a complex harmony. They were mourning, but they were also celebrating. They were sending the elder back to the deep. I stood at the edge of the circle, holding the staff. I felt the weight of it, the responsibility. I was the elder now. I was the keeper. When the dance was over, the female approached me. She reached out and touched the bone spiral at my neck. Then she touched the staff in my hands. "Keeper," she clicked. "You stay. You teach. You protect." I nodded. "I will." That night, I buried the elder under the cedar tree. I marked the spot with a stone. I knew I'd never speak of this to anyone. But I knew the ritual was real. The bond was real. And I was no longer just a man who had stumbled into the woods. I was part of the hidden world. Time moves fast when you're living in the woods. I'm 72 now, and my body is failing. The knee I twisted in 85 aches when it rains. The cough that I thought was gone sometimes returns, a reminder of my mortality. But the bond endures. In 2020, my granddaughter Dee came to visit. She's 12 years old, with her mother's eyes and her father's curiosity. Her mother, Glenna's daughter, had moved to Chicago and rarely called. I was the only family Dee had left on her father's side. Dee was different. She didn't fear the woods. She didn't mind the silence. She'd sit with me on the porch for hours, watching the trees, listening to the wind. "Danny," she said one evening, pointing to the ridge. "Who's that?" I followed her finger. Standing at the tree line was a young hollow man. He was smaller than the adults, maybe 7 feet tall, his skin pale, his eyes amber. He was watching us, his head tilted. My heart stopped. I grabbed Dee's hand. "Come inside," I said, my voice tight. "Now, but I want to see." "No." I pulled her inside and barred the door. My hands were shaking. This was it. The succession. The blood was calling. I spent the next week watching the ridge. The young hollow man returned every evening, sitting at the edge of the clearing, watching the cabin. He didn't approach. He waited. On the 7th day, Dee came to me. "Grandpa, he's waiting for me." I looked at her. I saw the birthmark on her neck. It was faint, a shadow of the root shape, but it was there. The mark had skipped a generation, but it had returned. The bond was passing to her. I couldn't protect her from this. I could only prepare her. I took her to the cedar grove. I showed her the stones. I told her the story, not the whole story, but enough. I told her about the hollow men, about the bond, about the debt. "They're not monsters," I said, my voice raspy. "They're guardians. They protect the woods, and in return, we protect them. We keep the secret. We keep the peace." Dee listened, her eyes wide. She didn't look afraid. She looked understanding. "Can I give him something?" she asked. I nodded. I gave her a jar of honey, the kind she liked. We went back to the ridge. The young hollow man was there. Dee stepped forward, holding out the jar. The creature looked at her, then at me. He made a soft trilling noise. He reached out and took the jar, his fingers brushing Dee's hand. He touched the mark on her neck, then nodded. "Blood calls," he clicked, his voice still rough with youth. "Keeper. Young." Dee smiled. "I'm Dee." The creature tilted his head. "Dee. Keeper. Stay." "I will," she whispered. That night, I sat on the porch and watched the young hollow man leave. I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The bond would continue. The secret would be kept. I had done my job. I'm writing this now because I don't have much time left. The doctors say it's my heart. They say I should rest, but I can't rest until I pass this on. If you're reading this, and you have a mark on your neck, or you've heard clicks in the dark, or you felt eyes on you in the woods, you need to know, you're not crazy. You're not cursed. You're a keeper. The hollow men are real. They're out there, in the deep woods, watching, waiting. They're part of the world, just like us. But they're hidden, and they need us to keep them hidden. There are others. I've heard rumors of keepers in the Appalachians, in the Ozarks, in the Pacific Northwest. We're scattered, isolated, but we're connected by the blood. If you find me, or if you find another keeper, reach out. We need to find each other. We need to strengthen the bond. I won't trade this life for anything. The loneliness, the fear, the lies, it's the price. But the connection, the wonder, the knowledge that there's more to the world than what we see, that's worth everything. I think you may be cursed, but the curse is a gift, and the debt is a privilege. Stay in the woods, listen to the clicks, and remember, you are not alone. If this story kept you up at night, or made you look twice at the tree line, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you have a mark, or a story, or a secret of your own, leave a comment below. We're listening. We're always listening.